Super excited to have everybody here today, to have Sydney presenting. And for some of you that don't know, we are the Marchant Real Estate Group with Team Limitless and EXP Realty. And this is our family. I'm the oldest daughter, Jeff, Dad, Lynn, Mom, sister, Sydney, and this is our office. So we're excited to have you guys all in here, and I'm gonna have Jeff introduce Sid.
Awesome. Come on up, Sid. So Sid has worked for us as our family business for several years. And I don't want to steal your story, but my story is she was always speaking in our voice. She was doing our marketing, she did our property management, and she worked with us, but she was trying to portray us, right? So when she went on her own, my opinion, maybe not your words, but she went through kind of an identity crisis. It's like, wait a minute, now who am I? So that's my connection with this amazing business that she's built. Is she's gone through all this self-discovery on who she is, like on an internal level. And it's turned into a budding branding business where she's consulting and coaching other people and stuff. So I love that picture, by the way. And so that's what she's here to talk to us about, is living your brand. And her company is called Creative. Hi. And so I'm just gonna let you come over here, grab the clicker and wait. This is my 6th granddaughter right here. This is Bria. I forgot to introduce Bria.
Well, awesome. Okay, so this right here.
Yep.
This is a new one.
Try it out.
Okay, sweet.
Oh, nice.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Sydney Anderson, and yes, my company is called Creative. And first, I just want to say that I'm so happy to see so many of your faces, especially with this squall we were dealing with. I love that word. I feel like a couple years ago, we discovered what that even was, right? But it's just a lot of snow here in Utah, if you guys aren't local on Zoom. But I just want to let you know that and confirm that you're in the right place if you are looking and seeking a deeper connection with people and your business. If you desire more than just your brokerage's logo and you want to express the essence of who you are with your branding. And I know this room is mainly real estate agents or in the real estate industry, but this can really apply to anyone. Just kind of speaking to who's in here. So, and you want this to be an extension of your true self. So, and then you want to smash the box of conformity. This is really important to me, and get outside of the box and what that looks like and show up as your authentic self. And then lastly, you are wanting to start attracting with a pulling energy, your ideal client. And that's whether that's through magnetic messaging or marketing and just showing up as who you are. So a little bit more about me. So I'm Sydney again, and I am a wife and I'm a mom. I have 2 little ones, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and a 3rd girl, so 3 girls on the way. And like Jeff said, we have 6 grandbabies now. This is grandbaby number 6, and they're all girls, and there's number 5 right there. And the back little Bellamy. But I often, actually right now probably, I smell like coffee all the time because I'm always sitting in coffee shops. I like to visit there, I like to work there. And I love making things beautiful. That's like one of my biggest passions. Is I like to add unique flair. I like to just beautify, as I tell Jeff, things. And I love designing and hosting. So any type of party. I love bridal showers. I love baby showers. I am the first in our family to volunteer to host all of those things. I love just getting people together and putting something thoughtful and creative together for whoever the guest of honor is. And I'm also a 5th generation real estate agent, which is kind of a fun fact. And I love guiding people on a soulful journey to naturally spark their branding. And so here's a little bit more about my timeline. So almost 7 years ago now, I started out by managing my parents' personal portfolio, actually, of around 48 doors. And I became their property manager. And during that time, I also became a new mom. And then I decided to acquire my license. As I was working the properties, I was taking on more responsibilities, like I was doing their marketing, I became their social media manager. And then I also was a creative director, so whenever we got headshots and things, I was always the one doing all the magic and making everyone look good. And then over time, I also became an event coordinator for our group, and I would organize these events, and we were doing at one time, one large event per month. So we were really, really hustling. And then during that time, I had another baby. So you can imagine my life was really chaotic. I had all these job titles that I quite honestly volunteered for. They weren't really supposed to be what I signed up for, but I just kept kind of taking on more and more because I loved it so much. And because my life was getting so overcrowded, it was changing. We were growing our family. We were actually building a custom home. We had so much going on. I decided I wanted to go out and become an independent agent. So I was on a formalized team with my family, the Marchant Real Estate Group. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a real shot and I'm gonna go independent. And so Jeff identified it as an identity crisis. That's pretty accurate. It was exactly what I went through. I realized I had 6 years of this accumulated identity that wasn't mine at all, especially since I was doing marketing and social media for them. I really prided myself on becoming Jeff's voice or becoming Lynn's voice, or even helping Chase and Ashley out. We were just like a full family dynamic, and Chase is here now. He is the last to our little immediate family, by the way. So we're all licensed real estate agents. So it just kind of runs in our blood. And my grandma's here also. She's an agent. And Chase, Ashley, and I are all 5th generation real estate agents, right? So we're just quite literally surrounded by it since the time we were little. We used to go to home renovations. My dad used to flip when we were little. And I grew up at a lot of their properties that when I became their property manager, I would have little memories of me running through the houses as a little kid. And while they were doing updates and things, or even showing them, we'd tag along. So very much so ingrained in who we are, right? And when I started out my real estate journey, I started out with them and I was like fused with them. And I didn't even realize this until I started to unravel what is now Sydney Ray Realty. That's how I branded myself in my real estate business. But I was going through this crisis of what do I sound like? I've been Jeff and Lynn for so long on social media that I'd actually get excited when people would message me and be like, Jeff, that was a great point. I'd be like, hell yeah, they think I'm you. And we'd give each other high fives and I'd be like, yes, I'm getting better. And it took me a long time to even get to that point. So then again, I'm questioning, well, what's my stance? Like, what do I believe in? And what makes me unique as a person? And so simultaneously, while I was going through this identity crisis, I disrupted my belief system. And this was ironic because this spawned because of a training I attended here that I did not want to be at all. Jeff actually was sick and I had trained one of my replacements and she wasn't sure how to pull up Zoom and stuff for one of these trainings. And I was getting called in, it was snowing, it was in January. And I was like, I really don't want to be there, but I'll show up because I know what to do. And it's like an oiled wheel. I'll just plug myself in. And I sat down, got everything rolling, and I was about to leave. And then there was some technical difficulties. Like I think the clicker wasn't working or something or other that kind of kept me around. Then I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the hey dog do out of here. And then someone sat next to me and I was like, son of a. And I was just in one of those moods, you know, where I was like, okay, I'll do what's asked and I'm not gonna be here anymore. And she started talking, her training was called Success the Feminine Way. And I also was a little confused because I was like, these are real estate trainings. What is she talking about? I wasn't open or perceptive during that time at all. And when she started talking, she started to talk about the day-to-day and the hustle that we all get stuck in and the do energy and the have to perform. And then something interesting got introduced to me, self-care. This was a new concept for me, and the comparison of doing versus being. And as she put it, masculine energy is the doing energy and feminine energy is the being energy. And I had never heard the terms feminine and masculine energy at all, except for in this training. So my life just kind of exploded from that point on, and I went through this, I'll call kind of a spiritual journey, because I realized I was missing like a higher source, a higher power. Even though I grew up here in Utah, I wouldn't coin myself to be religious whatsoever. And in fact, when people would say the word God a lot, I was very turned off by it. I'm just like, not for me. That's not something that I'm interested in. And I was very closed-minded again. And I realized that having belief and having spirituality is so much different than organized religion for me. And I realized I had this gaping hole. I didn't have any sort of spirituality in my life. It was missing. And because of that, I put myself, because of my series of events, I was putting myself in this box, and I was kind of getting awakened to the box I had put myself in. And I was learning how to daydream again for like the first time. I didn't realize, because I was hustling, because I had all those responsibilities, all those titles I'd given myself, self-inflicted. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't thinking of what I wanted to do. And then I heard this song. Have you guys heard, there's this girl on AGT, I should have looked up her name, but she wrote this song called Daydream. And it's like a song that makes me really emotional, but it essentially talks about when we were little kids in the backyard, we had these crazy imaginations, and no one told us to stop pretending to be astronauts and pretending to be doctors and all these things. And we were just free to imagine. And that was another thing that I realized, is that I had put all these labels and constrictions on myself. And all of a sudden, I realized that I could be free of all that. It was up to me. So I went through this huge personal transformation, and it naturally led to similar conversations. And so I also added some photos. I ended up joining that woman, Allison Travis is her name. She coaches, like life coaches in feminine energy, and I ended up joining her life coaching program. And I went to the Dominican Republic. I went to Cancun on 2 women's retreats this year, and they quite literally changed my life. I went solo, traveled out of country without my husband, which was just crazy, and just had time to just be for a full week without kids, without screaming, without all the like little things that grab your attention. And I got to walk around resorts by myself, all-inclusive resorts, and it was just like these crazy experiences. And so this obviously stirred up a lot of conversations with people because of everything I was going through personally. And I started to go to a lot of coffee dates. I love coffee shops. And so naturally, instead of going to lunch, if we're kind of in between things, I'll suggest a coffee shop. Starbucks is my second home, by the way, in Draper. But like everyone else, I discovered a lot of people don't know really who they are, right? And they were craving deeper conversation in their businesses and with their self. And they desired more than that hustle mentality that got to get things done. And they wanted more of a natural flow. And through so many conversations, I was having so much fun. I was realizing that I loved pushing people outside their comfort zone, kind of questioning and poking and prodding on things they would tell me. I'd read their energy. And if they were telling me something and I was like, my BS flag was going up, I would kind of call them out on it. And I noticed that when people were guided into certain directions, that certain like inner belief was sparked, and their natural born talents just kind of spewed out of them. And I loved helping people generate creative ideas around their natural born talents and how to integrate that and fuse that into their business. And not just ideas, but solutions, or like something they're having this problem with. Sometimes it was so clear to me, it's like, you just told me the answer, but when it's us, it's so much harder to see than someone looking from the outside. And so that was my favorite part of all of it. So I figured out I really loved those things, but my favorite part is that it was already within the people I was talking to. I was just pointing it out simply, and then the energy would get so high at these little meetups, and they'd get so inspired and be like, oh, I have all these ideas, boom, boom, boom. And oh, okay, and then I'll get to the point I thought I was going to get to after this. But on top of it all, I just really discovered that I loved individuality. And in fact, individuality is defined as the quality or character of a particular person or thing that distinguishes them from others of the same kind, especially when strongly marked. And so I just loved pointing out people's unique attributes, because we get so stuck in the world of comparison all the time that we think we need to be like everyone else. And so it was actually really fun for me to point out that that's what made them special and an individual. But there was one thing that was missing. So I noticed we'd have these awesome dates, sometimes 3 to 4 hours, and I'm not exaggerating. And like I said, that heightened energy, all of a sudden they have all these inspired actions that they want to take when they leave. And then I'd see them again a few months down the road, and I'd be like, hey, how was that thing we talked about? How did this go? And they'd completely forgotten about it, because they just, again, get back into that hustle, back into that day to day. And this started to really bother me because I was so lit up for these people. I felt like really attached to making them shine and their true light coming out. And so we would talk about these big picture ideas and these big long-term visions of something they ultimately wanted to work towards. And then when they get plugged back into that day to day, like that cycle, none of that showed up. It was just the client fulfillment, like chasing the next deal. And so I gained a new perspective on branding altogether. And I kind of started to combine these conversations and what I was noticing and really extracting from people, like the uniqueness and individuality. And I really wanted to formalize this somehow and be like, I just want other people to see how great you are, right? And so, and also I wanted people to step into their faith, that they had something beautiful to offer that made them unique. That was like really important to me. And so this is when Soul Spark Creative was born. And a little bit about my logo here. This is a little bit of the intricacy behind the brands I like to build out, is that every single piece of them has a deep meaning to the person that they're created for. And if done correctly and communicated correctly, other people can feel that as well. So just a little bit of an explanation. So the hat is actually pretty significant in my logo. And there's a little bit of a story that goes with this. So when I went down this self-discovery path for myself, I was walked through a visualization of what my future self a year from that point in time would look like. And it was basically like, if you could do anything, if you could be anyone. And it was this really intricate visualization. I'd never done one before either. So it's like, it's close your eyes. Let's listen to the meditation music. Let's set a scene. I was on a beach, and then I was transported to my house a year in the future. And something that really stood out to me, but I didn't understand during the visualization, only when I tried to break down what I saw in the visualization, is that I was wearing a hat, much like this one. And the hat signified for me, I realized, was my uniqueness and being true to who I was, because there was a point in my life where I liked to wear fun things. I liked to express myself through my clothing and wear kind of different unexpected items and jewelry. And I used to wear a hat like this, and I got told by several people, why do you wear stuff like that? Or I could never pull that off. Like, it draws so much attention, all those little comments that stay with us, right? And so this hat became really powerful to me. And so a lot of my photos, you'll see I'm wearing a hat because it's empowering to me to step into my authentic self and my uniqueness. And the spark that's coming from the chest is also, it's kind of in between the throat and it's in between the heart. And to me, this signifies like what sparks your soul. And so when we let our inner truth come out, it's like this shining light that people can't help but notice. It's like this radiance, right? That you can feel, but you can't see. And the word creative is deliberate because it signifies uniqueness to me. I really want people to give themselves permission to squish the box and live outside of the box and be introspective and creative with what they really desire and what they want. And then lastly, the facial expression. You'll see a lot of my photos, I'm kind of just breathing and looking up with my eyes closed. To me, that is the being versus the doing that I described. It's just kind of like breathing in the cool air and feeling the wind on your face, like being present. And so each brand is layered with significance that when I created this, I actually cried. And I remember sending it to my mom, and she was with me when I did that visualization, and I walked through the whole hat scenario, and she knows personally like the people involved in the comments that were made and things like that. And so we both kind of got teary-eyed together, and she could feel it for me. And so it's really powerful. And so through self-discovery, or the rediscovery really, and deep introspection, I help entrepreneurs align with their unique vision and fuse it with what sparks their soul in their branding. And instead of the doing what we believe we need to do, I want to help you create a brand where you are quite literally your brand. It's an extension of who you are. And to me, branding is different. It's not like when I look at other people who do branding, they're sought out for their style, like as someone that does branding, because their logos look a certain way. They use certain fonts. They can brand luxury really well. But to me, all the clients I have helped, there's no correlation with what their brand or their logos look like whatsoever, because it's about the person to me and extracting that emotional connection to your brand that you can like literally feel it to where it makes you emotional, right? And so once I understood that, I was able to help people feel and express this with being pride. Like once we unlocked a brand together, it's like the easiest thing in the world to talk about when people ask you how your business is. And you get into this, you go down this rabbit hole of just spilling everything you love about your brand because it's so intricate and it's so important, and then it's so authentic to you. So creating magnetism through your brand, this is really important. So not through force, not through pushing energy, which is kind of that doing energy I've been talking about, but through a pull energy, which is magnetism, where people can truly like feel it. They can feel it because it's a frequency. And I'm going to get into that in these next couple slides of how powerful frequency is. And it can really be felt. Like have you ever met someone and you instantly get like an eerie feeling and you can't explain it? I guess I have an example of this. When I was looking for daycares for my kids, we went and saw a lot of in-home daycares, and one of them, my husband and I left, and we both were on the exact same page, and we could not put our finger on it why, but we were like, it's a definite no. And it was a hard no for both of us, but we couldn't explain it. And that's because frequency can be felt, and it can't really be explained. It's more of a feeling. And that's for the reverse side, when you feel someone or you meet someone for the first time and you like quite literally like, hey, I feel like I've known you for 10 years. And you can't explain that. But it's when we come in contact with someone that's a vibrational match with us, we feel seen, we feel heard, and we feel understood. And so that's what I'm trying to create in a brand, is an emotional connection that reels people in because they feel seen and understood by you. And so I do that, and this is what I've ultimately, these are the two things that I've ultimately determined makes a really authentic brand. And of course, the first one is aligning yourself with your authenticity, and not through force, right? But through that magnetism we just talked about. And then the connection comes from an emotional connection. It's felt. And just like, think of your favorite celebrity. Like, think of someone who you just really, really love, whether it's an athlete, a singer, an artist, any type of celebrity, really. We feel this attachment to them in a way, even though we've never met them. And that's because they've done a really good job at creating some sort of an emotional connection with us. And best example I can think of right now, because they're really popular, is like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I know so many people who are like obsessed with their relationship, and it's because Travis Kelce, he has a podcast. He's more than just someone that's in the NFL. Like, people know personal details about him. They know that he's a brother. He does a podcast with his brother, if you guys aren't familiar. And like, his brother's kids come on the show, and all of a sudden you see Uncle Travis Kelce. So then you identify with him more as a person. And then obviously Taylor Swift, she writes her own songs. You feel like you peer into her soul because the lyrics are so deep and they're so relatable on such a deep level that we establish this emotional connection. And all of a sudden we're telling people how much we love them as a couple who have never met them, right? So that's what's felt. And so I want to talk a little bit about frequency. Have you guys, anyone in this room, I know you have heard of Gary Brecka? Anybody? If you guys are an EXP, you probably have. He is someone that partnered with Grant and Melina Cardone, 10X Health, and he is a biochemist that specializes in biochemistry, kind of. And there's going to be a video here next, but he talks about frequency and the law of attraction, and it's really interesting. And so here's a little bit of a clip. And it should.
Let me make sure the sound is shared too.
Okay.
It's almost a miss.
No, it's not that. It's the next slide. Here we go.
How many of you actually believe in the universal law of attraction? Okay, so I didn't for 22 years because I'm a scientist. My background is in clinical research and mortality, so I didn't believe in that law until one day I was studying a law in physics, and you're welcome to look this up. It's called constructive interference. Constructive interference. It's a law in physics that is as valid as the law of gravity. What constructive interference says is that if two frequencies of equal wavelength meet, the size of the frequency doubles. That's a fact, which means that you can get energy from conversation. You can get energy from other people. They can also take energy from you. Destructive interference says that if two frequencies of opposite wavelength meet, the size of the wave cancels, right? We say things like women are more intuitive. You ever heard that? Women are more intuitive? That's not true. Women are more sensitive to frequency. Right? They actually can sense the frequency more aptly than a man. So when we understand that frequency is emitted from a human being's body, and that frequency has a lot to do with what we attract and what we repel in the universe. As I was reading about this clinical, this valid law, constructive interference, I stumbled on a clinical study called the Spain Scale of Emotion. SPANE stands for the scale of positive and negative energy. They took 25,000 participants in Germany and they put them inside of something called a Faraday's cage. You know what a Faraday's cage is? It's an area that is devoid of all frequency. There's no microwave, no radio wave, there's no frequency of any kind in there. No EMF, no 5G, nothing. And they measured the frequency that was leaving a human being's body. And they were able to isolate frequency leaving human beings' bodies with such accuracy that they could tell exactly what mood that person was in. Not just that they were angry, but they were in despair, they were jealous, or they were vengeful. They could actually isolate frequencies to that degree. Do you know what the most powerful frequency to leave a human being's body is? Does anybody want to know what the most attractive frequency and the most powerful frequency to leave a human being's body? Anyone want to take a guess? Sex. Sex. Sex is not a frequency, that's an act. But we like where your head's at. Okay? Confidence, close? Love is close. This is actually 4 times more powerful than love. Close, joy, authenticity. Who said that? Right there. Have you seen me speak before? Okay, good. That was awesome. It's the frequency of authenticity. It has an amplitude that is so powerful and so attractive that can actually affect the frequency of another human being that you're talking to. Authenticity only happened, and the Spain scale of emotion proved this, when your words are truthful and you believe what you're saying. If your words are not truthful, or you do not believe what you're saying, you cannot emanate the frequency of authenticity.
I love this video so much. Okay, so authenticity, he said it only happens and we only emit this frequency if we're doing 2 things. We're telling the truth and we must believe what we're saying. And so something that I've found is authenticity can so easily be clouded because of comparison. We should all over ourselves what we should be doing, right? And so what if we don't know what the truth is? And this is something that came up so often in these conversations with people. And in this, now relating it back to authenticity, how can we believe what we're saying if we don't even know what our truth is, right? And so this is another universal law that I really, really love. And this helped me, and it still helps me. This is probably my favorite universal law that I try really hard to use and pay attention to, no pun intended there. But it's the law of focus and attention. And what that law is, I guess, first off, is whatever we give our attention to, it grows and it expands in our life, right? I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this law. But something I didn't realize is that cloud that was coming over my authenticity, we're so bogged down by that comparison, but it shows up in other ways. And a really, really easy example of this is our emails. This guy right here, don't ever look at his phone. How many unread emails he has gives me anxiety. But I realize every single day I'm constantly logging into my email and I'm constantly marking things as read or unread. I'm archiving things. And so when I heard about this law for the first time, something I did to help clear this cloud, because in this day and age, we have so much grabbing our attention. We have social media telling us what we should do, how to get success, if we follow this formula, and it's everywhere, right? But things like our email, that wasn't like in my face as much, but it was taking up the space in my head, and I didn't realize that. So what I started to do as an exercise is every single time I instantly deleted something without even looking at the subject, it's like, oh, Bath and Body Works, goodbye. You know, I would unsubscribe from it instead. So instead of deleting, I mean, these big companies like Bath and Body Works is actually a good example. We get a few emails weekly, right? And if we're constantly like giving our attention to simply archiving something, we don't even have to open it. We don't even have to read it. But we don't realize that these things build up. Think about our everyday email as such a small little thing, right? So I started to unsubscribe from everything. And then I started to, once that got really cleaned up, I started to do the same with my social media. I started to look at who I was following. If I scrolled right past their page, every time I saw something, I started to be like, why am I still following them? At one point in time, maybe this influencer, for instance, gave me gave me something, it taught me something, they taught me something. But at this point in time, I'm not paying attention to them. So why wouldn't I fill my space with things I am paying attention to that help me grow, that are in alignment with where I'm at? So those are two super easy things that you can do that you cannot believe. The space that you create, you create a void that needs to be filled with something of a higher vibration by doing this. And that's also the law of sacrifice too, is you give up something of a lower vibration in order to receive something of a higher vibration. So if we have all these lower vibrational things clouding our email and social media, how are we able to see the things that we actually do want to see? What if we miss them because we're just so clouded, right? And so another example, speaking of social media, is metrics. And there's really measurable and immeasurable metrics in social media. And this is something that I started to try and train myself of not pay attention to also. We're taught that our views, our shares, our amount of followers, the messages we receive, the comments we get on our posts, they're so important. We're constantly refreshing, right? That law of focus. We post something and we're like, okay, how many likes? Why isn't this one getting likes versus my last one? But what we can't measure, but what we can feel or we can hear when certain people talk to us is relatability, trust, curiosity, motivation, inspiration. So we can't gauge or measure the things that are on the right as a metric. It's immeasurable. Yet we hold ourselves to those measurable things, and social media becomes something entirely different, right? And so again, it's that law of focus of choosing what to pay attention to. And so the thing about those metrics is your future client may be silently consuming, and you don't know that that last post you did motivated them to do A, B, or C, or to finally go out and do something they've been wanting to do for a long time. And so with number one being, so that was number one of you have to trust, or you have to know what you're saying. And now number two is you have to believe it. And so you can activate this too by activating your faith, your belief. Those are interchangeable to me with action. And whenever you are, and the definition or like an explanation of this is whenever you're persistently giving your attention to something, it will grow, right? And so, oh, that's actually supposed to be the last slide. So hold on. I'm going to give an example of this actually. So I have a little 4-year-old girl at home, and I heard this example and it really related to me, probably because of where I'm at in my life. But this is an example of you can have faith and you can believe in yourself, but without action, your faith isn't actually activated. I've heard it called like your faith isn't alive without the action. And so there's this little girl, she's about 4 years old, and her dad's going to work. And for whatever reason, she really, really, really wants to go to work with him that day. And he has meetings, back-to-back meetings. He actually has like an off-site meeting, and he's like, hey, out of all days, like today is not the day for you to come to work with me. And he just completely shuts her down. And instead of pouting or whining or screaming or even begging, like pulling on his shirt, she runs to her room. And he doesn't know what she's doing, but he just continues to get ready for work. And all of a sudden, you hear the back door open, which is where he goes out to his truck to go to work. And she hears that back door open, and she full force runs to her dad, and she had gotten herself dressed. She has like a side little messy ponytail, and she kind of tries to wear clothes that she thinks is like work appropriate. And she's putting on that last shoe, and she's like hopping out the door, and he looks at her and he is just like, how can I say no to you? And so what she did and what she demonstrated there, which I've never thought of action this way. I've always thought of action as like, you got to show up. If you're not showing up, you show up harder, like to get results, do more. Again, that doing energy. But what she did was she just acted with faith that she was going to work with her dad that day. And when she demonstrated her faith with actions, he couldn't tell her no. And so it's kind of like the comparison of like the universe can't deny you what you want if you take actions towards it. And this just like blew my mind because it gave me a whole different spin on how I want to take action. It's acting in faith and belief that you're going to get to where you want to go. It's not so much the do more, do more, do more, which is what I had to find it as before. And so with action, I kind of integrate this into my program. I give weekly homework, and it just gives people that they just take a step towards that long-term vision once it's identified. And it's just so interesting that, like those coffee dates I had, we talk about this long-term vision, we talk about these dreams, these aspirations, and how cool would it be if I was able to integrate this into my business, and then nothing would happen during the month span we didn't see each other, right? And so, but when we take one step in the right direction, or we take some action, the universe knows what we want. It's able to provide and, like, quite honestly, just delight us in ways we couldn't ever imagine. Like, have you ever, okay, this is a fun story. I was talking with my mother-in-law about writing children's books, and she was like, oh my gosh, that would be like the dream of all dreams. Like, I would never ever think I could do that, but that'd be so cool. And her energy shifted, and she started to get so excited and go off about book ideas. The next week, someone literally pulled into my driveway asking about my stucco color. And I just talked with her for a little bit. And I was like, I feel like there's a reason we are supposed to meet. Like, let's go to lunch. And I've never done that before. And she literally pulled into my driveway when I'm pulling into my garage, and I'm like, hi. So it's kind of a weird introduction. We start talking at this lunch that we scheduled. And she literally says, the first person I've ever met says, I help people write children's books. And I just got like full body chills. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what are the odds that my mother-in-law tells me and goes off about these children's books, which I'm actually currently co-writing with her right now because of that actually one meeting with that person. And she was like, yeah, I've done it before, and I love showing people how easy it is. And that was one way that the universe showed up for me. And I would have never prayed or been like, please have someone pull into my driveway that writes children's books. Like, you can't imagine that stuff, right? It just happens, and it's kind of like those unexplainable things. And so I realized that I love intuitively guiding people towards these things and what sparks their soul. And when conversations, like when we unlock a brand that sparks our soul, conversation just becomes so natural to where you are radiating with that authenticity, that frequency that we don't realize we're emitting. But have you ever like seen a woman walk into a room, and let's say everyone's heads down, like in a coffee shop, for instance, and someone walks in and you don't know why, but they're like radiating, they're glowing, there's something about them, you want to talk to them. That's that pulling energy that people create from being in their highest frequency, is authenticity. And that's when you hear people talking about something that they're passionate about, that they authentically, they believe, and that, or that they are telling the truth about, and that they believe, and they light up, right? And so when we get to this point where we unlock a brand that does these things naturally, it becomes the most fun thing to talk about. And let's talk about building trust, because these things go hand in hand. Because if someone resonates with like your cause or your beliefs, it just automatically builds trust. So if you're talking about your brand and you are integrating your passions and things that you are really, that light you up, that you radiate that authentic frequency about, and someone has something in common with you, what happens to the conversation? Those, they double, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, I've never met someone that writes children's books. I want to know all these questions. And all of a sudden the energy gets heightened, and the frequency, you're omitting that frequency without even knowing it. And so we want to make people feel like they know us, that they can trust us. And a lot of that comes from feeling it, right? You want people to feel you, feel your brand. And so, and this is where emotional connection ties in. So with authenticity, we can discover or rediscover and build in emotional connection. So when I started out my branding journey, I actually got a little bit frustrated, actually really frustrated, because all I could find anywhere were prompts. And I was like yearning for so much more than just these workbooks or these worksheets that say, what's your mission? What's your ideal client look like? And I could feel that cloud coming in of, what do I really feel? And like, what's authentically me versus what's coming into my head of what I think I should be saying, or what I should do, or what someone has told me I need to do to be successful. And there's like that little voice in my head all the time that I realized was there, that shooting all over myself, right? But we see these people online a lot of times, which is something new and fun we have to deal with in our day and age. And we see these instant success stories, and we see other people's definitions of success. And so I was getting so frustrated because I'd sit down and I'd be really excited. Okay, I'm gonna write down my mission, my vision. And I had all this comparison and confusion that was going on. I couldn't really write something out. And so that isolated one-on-one conversation, I realized was so important, because for 1 hour, we're sitting down and we're talking about nothing but you and your business. And that's all we're doing. I mean, when do we ever give ourselves 1 hour, speaking of self-care, like of isolated time? It's constantly interrupted, especially in our industry. We get a phone call. We get a phone call from a buyer. This actually happened to me yesterday. I was working on this presentation and I get this buyer that I have worked with for 2 years. And they're like, we want to go up Immigration Canyon today. We have this house we love. We can afford our mortgage now and we can buy this one. When can you go? I had a book full of things, or my schedule booked full. And I was just like, I can't today. But what did I do? I looked up the MLS number. I called the agent. I got all this information because I could see just by looking through the photos. I've worked with these guys for so long that it was just this perfect house for them. And I walked houses too. And so you know how we get so good at that. And the next thing I know, 2 hours go by and I'm writing them these emails and we're in conversation of when we can schedule to go out. And it's a situation where we have to schedule with the agent. So anyways, 2 hours go by. And now I need to flip my focus back, right? But when you're in like an appointment that's an hour, we don't let those interruptions disrupt us, right? We're not reactive because we're giving isolated time. But when we're diving into those like branding prompts, or like we're trying to do an exercise, it's almost relieving when we get a phone call sometimes, because we're like so frustrated that we get a phone call. We're like, oh, I need a break anyway. So the next thing you know, you never finish those prompts, right? And so through the one-on-one conversation, true desires and passions and that long-term vision, it just like really naturally unfolds. And so speaking of new home or home buyers, I want to use a new home buyer as an example. So imagine you guys have a new home buyer working with you real estate agents, and they give you this whole laundry list of all their must-haves. And sometimes just after walking one home, can you guys relate to this, where you're like, you don't really want what's on that list? And the best example I have of this is a new home buyer saying, I'm okay with a fixer-upper. And you tour one home with them, and based off the comments and how the things that they're pointing out about the home, and the comments between the husband and wife of like, do you know how much money that would cost? Do you know that those baseboards are dirty? You're like, you do not want to fix her upper. Like, you're not ready for this, especially the first time home buyers, right? They see, let's see. It's not working now.
I hope not.
Here.
Which one?
I want that one. Okay, now it's working. Okay, but our true desires, it's the hardest part to figure out on our own. But like as a home buyer, when you go and tour properties, when you actually get into the nitty gritty, that's when they realize what they really want, what their real true, like what they end up buying new construction, right? And so I've learned to intuitively guide people and follow like that authentic energy, just like us as real estate agents, when we're walking through a home and we see that perfect house and we know from all these tours that we're like, oh my gosh, we're like trying to be quiet, like this is the one, waiting for them to realize it. And then you hear the complaining again and you hear the comments and you've seen 15 other properties and you're like, this is the one, it checks all the boxes. Like it checks all the things that are important, price, everything. And sometimes it's our job to weigh things out for them and point things out and help them realize like, this is it. And then all of a sudden those feelings come back. We just have this doubt that sets in though, like, especially making huge decisions, right? I mean, even buying a house, establishing a brand, it's a commitment. And so the doubt just sets in. And so it's nice to have that guide. Like that's why we hire a real estate agent, right? They're the professional in this situation. And I feel like you have to often remind those home buyers to reconnect to their vision. This isn't your forever home. Like on the reverse side, when I can have clients looking for new construction, that's way out of their price range, but it's ideal location and it's brand new, right? That's what everyone wants. But they have to sacrifice something. They have to sacrifice the condition of the property, the location of the property, or the price of the property if they want to do something that fits into their budget, if they're on a budget. And sometimes we have to reconnect and say, the point is for you to get into a house. It's not for you to buy the forever home right now. We want you to build equity so you can get that. This is a stepping stone, right? So you can get that forever home. And so that's what I have learned to do too, is once we unlock what that long-term vision is, I'm reconnecting to it. So when we're building the brand, it's like, is this in alignment with where you want to go? Or is this something, one of those shoulds that's popping up that we think we need to be doing? It's not necessarily in alignment at all with where we want to go. And so this is an easy exercise right here that it showcases our long-term vision, and it kind of unlocks and allows us to get back into that dreaming. And I don't think we have time for this example, but essentially, if you were to ask yourself, and if this is guided, it's way better, but if an all-powerful genie were to like show up out of nowhere and he can grant you any wish that you want, and like just like snap of the fingers, it's yours. Like you don't have to work for it, you don't have to pay for it, you don't have to do anything. Like what would you be doing in your business? What would you wish for in your business? And you can get really detailed when it's prompted. You can even ask about like, well, what colors do you see? And what emotions do you feel? And what is your ideal client that at a snap of a finger would just be knocking down your door? And sometimes with an exercise like this, it's actually really interesting what comes up, because we don't allow ourselves to dream a lot. And we're so clouded all the time that we think we need to serve every client and anyone that's coming to us, even if they don't align with who we are, we need the money, right? We're chasing the money. And so that's an easy exercise to kind of unlock that long-term vision. And then what we would do is we'd weave in the long-term vision with your brand, like every aspect of it. And then we'd create emotional triggers. And like that would naturally happen, like my Soul Spark logo that I went through. When I see those things, it reminds me of what I want to portray and what my brand is all about. And an example of this is why people do vision boards, is because when we see it, it emotionally triggers us to feel something. that's what we want. That's like our long-term, oh my gosh, it would be so nice to have that car, right? And so that's why vision boards are so big, but the thing that often gets forgotten about vision boards is that it's tied to feeling. And like, that's what we're chasing, and that's actually what our subconscious responds to. And so we'd weave in that vision, and then we'd sprinkle in some passion. And sometimes when we sprinkle in passion, there's an opportunity for a double blessing. And so I actually have Chase and Britt. We did branding together a little while back, and we unlocked their brand. And this is an example. I should have told you I was using this. But I think they're okay with it. So their ideal client is practical pet owners that walk their dog every day. But Brittany has a passion for baking, and Chase and Brittany, they're a husband and wife team, for those of you on Zoom too. They're a husband and wife team that got into business together. Chase is licensed, and Britt helps with the back end. And anyway, so they also love their dog Rocky. She's pictured right here. She actually ended up in their logo, which I won't get into, even though they have some fun stuff in there. And but Brittany loves baking. And so something that we came up with together was making custom dog treats, homemade dog treats, because she likes to cook from scratch. And so what that does, it's like this double blessing. Her clients get something like unique, and it can be a gift, it can be a pop by, it can even be like in their closing baskets. But then Brittany gets to feel fulfilled by baking. Like, she gets to do something that's like self-care to her, that makes her feel good. But it's also fusing like who she is as a person and like a way she shows people love, right? And what's cool about this is they also have different opportunities with these to drop them off at nonprofit organizations or dog parks. We've talked about doing booths where they hand them out for free, and they actually have custom cookie cutters that have their logo and their dog Rocky's face on them. And so it's something so personal that, you know, the feeling you get when you gift someone a personal gift, that you know that they're going to love. It's on the reverse too. When someone's gifted something that's so personal, they can't help but just like feel connected with you. It's that emotional connection that's getting built. And then the other cool thing is, not every client of theirs has dogs, but usually they have a family member that does. And so we've talked about in the future, long-term vision is to sell them on the side as a gift idea as well. And then they're supporting a local business, right? And so this is a co-creative process where in that isolated hour, things are being extracted about your business and about your passions and about your long-term vision that we often don't even know is there, right? Because we don't give ourselves that time. And this opens us up to receive natural inspiration. And so, and I'm almost done, I know I'm over on time. But the other thing that the program does that I think is so cool is it makes your long-term vision digestible. So over the course of 12 weeks, you chip away, and you honestly can't believe what gets done, because when, again, do we give ourselves an hour of isolated time per week to consistently work on one thing, right? And so I have an example of a cigarette smoker here. That I heard this example and I was just like, this is exactly why I love giving homework, the accountability. So this smoker for the last 10 years, so he goes up to this preacher and he tells this preacher, for the last 10 years, I smoked 3 packs a day. And I've smoked since I was in high school 30 years ago, but for the last 10 years, it's been like this crazy habit. And he was like, and then he heard the notion of the action actually activates your faith, right? So he had faith that he could quit. He was praying, his family was praying that he'd quit for years. And it was just this horrible habit. He was getting sick, he couldn't talk well. And so he had this belief that he was going to quit, but he didn't have any action. And so he heard that notion that the action activates the faith. And he started with throwing 3 cigarettes away in 1 pack per day. And once he didn't miss those 3 cigarettes, took him a little while, he turned it into 6. So he would still buy his 3 packs, instantly throw away 3 cigarettes, and then it turned into instantly threw away 6 cigarettes. And then the time of 2 years, he was completely smoke-free. And he went back up to this preacher and he was like, if I didn't take a small just step in the right direction, instead of being like, I have to quit tomorrow, I have to stop smoking 6 or 3 packs a day tomorrow, which is kind of what we do to ourselves, right? Especially with that comparison, wanting to attain or be like someone else. And he ended up quitting. And so when we chip away at the homework like that, the things you accomplish after even realizing your vision, and anchoring everything to your vision it's really, really powerful. And so through a co-creative process, we uncover and we align you with your authentic self, and then we anchor everything to that vision, and we remind you that it's even there, right? And that alone just leads to an inspiration. Instead of the hustle mentality, it's inspired action. You feel inspired to take action instead of get it done now. And what that naturally creates too is momentum in your business, because you're actually chipping away and you're integrating that long-term vision and everything, that it's literally like bursting who you are. And something I like to point out too is that throughout our lifetime, we're just in constant evolution, our business and ourselves. So the more experience we get, the higher prices we can charge, our offers that we offer people, they might develop, the marketing might develop, the way we talk to people or who we want to talk to, it all evolves. And as we get experience, we grow too as a person, but there is one constant, and that's us. And so I want to challenge you guys to break the box that a lot of us put ourselves in, and to take off the mask that we're putting on with the comparison, and just like authentically be who we are, and to reconnect with ourselves. And again, I want to confirm you're in the right place if you are seeking a deeper connection with people and in your business, and you want to start expressing the essence of who you are through your branding, and you want to start attracting the ideal clientele in a magnetic way, and you want to start living your brand. And living your brand is, I think, one of the coolest things that shows up towards the end of the 12 weeks. Is by then usually like a logo is established, colors are established, or they're all in the works. And when I was doing this for myself, and I had my like sun logo for Realty, I have like a little spark logo for my Soul Spark Creative, it just started showing up everywhere in my life. Like I was gifted these earrings for my birthday, they're little suns. I was gifted this necklace. I mean, I'm attracted to this color. This is my color in both companies. And then there was something else I was thinking about. Oh yeah. And then someone sent me this phone case and I purchased it, and it has suns on it. And so it just starts showing up in your life, but you can't recognize it if you don't identify it. And back to the authenticity is, if you don't speak the truth and you don't believe what you're saying, you can't be authentic. And so it's just really fun to show up authentically and to be able to express yourself and live your brand without even meaning to. And then when you express it correctly, it starts also coming to you through the universe and delighting us, or even through gifts, right? And so just a little reminder that our brand is ourselves, and that is the one thing that's constantly evolving, but it's also the one constant. And so to reconnect with ourselves and uncover our authenticity, that's what I want to do. And so I am like 3 months out from having my baby right now. And so I really want to gain more experience with this. I mean, this whole journey just started last January, and I can't believe where it's taken me. It's actually a year ago tomorrow, which is ironic and crazy, that all of this started happening for me. And I just started working with clients. Like before I even knew what my branding was, I was getting experience, and people were just signing up for my program without it being established. So I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing? And so I want even more experience before this baby comes. Like I said, it's number 3. And so I think my life's going to change pretty significantly, but I'm really excited for where this is going. And so I'm actually offering more than a 50 or almost a 50% discount. It's the cheapest I've ever offered it for the 12-week program. And so I'm really out of time. So come talk to me. I have packets that kind of go into detail. And then I also have upgraded packets that you can at any time decide to add on. That include me personally on site creatively directing at photo shoots, because that's naturally what comes next. After you have this radiant, beautiful brand that you've discovered, people are like, I need new like photo shoots. I need branding content. Like I'm ready to go out and create. And so I partnered with Purple Moss, Carrie. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, a lot of people are, but she is a local photographer and she can provide reels and photo. She does video and photo, I mean. And so I have packages outlined with that also, but I'm only offering this until 5 p.m. tomorrow because I have really limited space. So come talk to me after. And then I think Ash has a few slides. I think that there's a contact slide here. But yeah, scan this QR, let's stay in touch. And here's my phone number and my email. If you guys are interested in the program, the offer is going to last until tomorrow at 5 p.m. And so make sure that you contact me by text or email. I'm gonna want to do a call first to make sure that our frequencies are aligned, right? And so that would be the next step. And if they are, then I want to offer you guys this huge discount that I'm doing. And then I think Ash has a slide now introducing the sponsor. Yep.
That's good. That was awesome. Can you guys feel her passion?
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of goes along with the authenticity, right? It's hard to be passionate about something that isn't aligned with your authenticity. And speaking on the real estate context, we all know people that quit, that have to move on to something else. I would dare say is because they were doing things that weren't in line with their true nature and who they were, and they're beating themselves up every day, doing shit that they don't like. But, and not having a guide, we're a guide for people during their transactions when they buy and sell real estate. Why don't we have a guide to help us discover our core, to the core of who we are, so that our daily activities just exude that, and we're passionate and we're excited to talk to people like, shit, I gotta make more phone calls and the drudgery of the day-to-day activities you can feel from people, right? So I love all of that. That was really awesome. You can see it in her slides. And everything that you just presented, that you do come from that place of passion, and she's now getting that from other people. She's figured out her own stuff. So anyway, I can ramble on and on. Anybody have any questions for Sydney before we move on, or comments? Anything on Zoom? You guys got any? Hi, Kaylee. Hi, Shantae. I haven't even been looking at the Zoom. Good to see you guys. Okay, well, we're gonna transition really shortly here, and then we're gonna stay here in person and network a little bit and have some lunch and visit. But I want to call Travis.genta up. We got a sponsor in here that's brought us some food for us to have while we network together. We met Travis just recently at a luncheon event that we had through our broker's office, and he sat next to Ashley and Shayna, and they had a good conversation, and we invited you in. So
Thank you very much.
Who you are, what you do, and how you can help these guys.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. What's
Oh,
that?
yeah, next slide.
Look, you get
Yeah, they're all great.
There he is.
Great. I'm excited now. Thank you. That was a great presentation. That was good stuff. I thought I was thinking back of previous people that I've met that I've connected with. Just, you don't really think about that until somebody points it out. So it's great. So my name is Travis.genta. I'm with Cornerstone First Mortgage. I've been doing this for 25 years. So it's 1996, 97, I can't remember, 96, I think is when I got into the business. So I'm not quite a fifth generation, but I'm a second generation in the real estate industry. My dad is a real estate broker up in Idaho for, ever since I was like 4 years old. So he's still up there, but I'm down here because I met a girl, you know how that goes. And stayed down here and got into mortgages, and my brother's an appraiser up there. So I'm in the industry. So one of the things that I like to do as a real estate or as a mortgage lender is I want to bring value when I meet real estate agents. I want to meet not just the guy that comes in, oh yeah, I've got the best rates, I can do it really fast, because obviously I should be able to do that anyway, or else I shouldn't be in the business if I can't get deals done, right? But one of the things that I like to do is to try to bring value. bring in new programs that people don't necessarily have all the time. And one of the programs that I wanted to talk about really quick today is a bridge loan. How many people have a bridge loan and have heard about a bridge loan? They're not very popular, and why they should be, because what can they do for you guys as real estate agents? They can open up more buyers to, to being able to not having to wait. So the bridge loan that I wanted to talk about really quickly, it's a short-term loan with no monthly payment that's due on the home that you're leaving, right? So it allows your client, say for example, one of the examples that I want to talk about was I had a client in Minnesota. They got a job out here and they needed to move quick. Well, their home was like they were repairing the basement, right? So what they did is they decided to get a bridge loan on their home out there. We were able to give them 75% of the value of that home out there to pay off their other mortgage and to use to pay off actually a couple of other debts. And we would have enough money to provide the down payment for the home here in Utah and then get the home here in Utah. And we don't count that other debt. So it's kind of a cool little program, and I'm not explaining it really I get nervous talking. I'm more of a one-on-one person, but I appreciate the opportunity to present today. But it increases your negotiating power because they were able to come out here and have an offer that was non-contingent, right? So they don't have to be contingent on the sale of their home, and they're like, "Oh crap, I'm not ready to sell this home because I've got fix-ups I need to do. I don't want to have to fire sale it. I don't want to have to sell it for 80% of the value just because I want to get it gone." So that's what this bridge loan does. And one of the things over at Cornerstone First is they always preach, make sure you bring value to your agents that you meet. So I'd love to be able to meet all of you and see if there's a way that I can bring value to you guys in your business, and go from there. But I don't want to take a lot of time. I did bring some treats from, I know that, didn't you play at Utah?
No.
No.
Westminster.
Westminster.
Oh, Westminster,
Yeah.
okay, Westminster, I know I remembered something about that. But bought some stuff from BYU, so hopefully you're okay, even though we're up here.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
good.
probably what it
So it's
is.
okay. Yeah, enjoy it. And if you have any questions about a bridge loan one other quick thing I wanted to, we have a program that it's one of my favorite stories is that he's a self-employed, he's actually an electrician. My son worked for him for a while, right after high school, but he lost his accountant, hadn't filed his taxes in 5 years. Okay, he's self-employed, right?
Yeah.
So we were able to get him a loan for 20% down on a home. We've got a program for that. So it's kind of a fun story, because I like to tell stories sell, right? So hopefully get, something that I said today will,
Awesome.
you.
Awesome. Thanks, and you're gonna stick around, right?
Yes, one last thing
Yeah.
is that we are licensed nationwide. I'm licensed in 7 states personally, but I can be licensed in 48 hours for you guys that are out of state. I'm licensed in California, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, New Jersey, and Florida.
Oregon.
I will be, or can be.
Washington.
Actually Washington as well, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. So happy to help anybody if you have something from out of state as well. Thanks a bunch, I appreciate it.
Thanks, I appreciate you.
Kaylee had a comment on.
Oh, Kaylee, actually said you had a comment. Oh, for me to read in the chat? Oh, Kaylee, hey, maybe, instead of me, unmute yourself. There you go. Hey, hold on. Hold on.
I just wanted to share that I did Sydney's 12-week program, and it was incredible, remarkable. She gave me permission to be myself and to let it shine. And it really does feel like you can show up like as yourself and accomplish everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Kaylee is in real estate. She does a lot investing and fix and flips and stuff like that. And yeah, I've heard you rave about Sydney before, so thanks for sharing that. Okay, guys, that's all we got for you. Do I have more slides?
Just the upcoming training.
Oh,
Thanks, guys. That was great.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, you guys on Zoom, I just put up the last slide. We got some, just to show you some of the other trainings coming up. Love you guys. Thanks for staying until the end. Reach out to me if I can do anything for you. And then you guys here, hopefully you got some time to stick around and let's visit. See you guys. Okay, that's it. Let's see. Nice job, kiddo.